You make good money. Why does it never feel like enough? You told yourself this raise would fix it. You told yourself this bonus would fix it. You told yourself once the mortgage was paid off, you'd finally relax. None of it did. That's because more money was never the actual problem. That's exactly what The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel is about. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why more money never felt like enough. We'll break down 5 ideas from the book. Why financial success is a behavior, not an intelligence test. Why the goalpost of enough keeps moving no matter how much you earn. Why time, not talent, built the biggest fortune in investing history. Why wealth is actually invisible, and why the smartest people plan for their own plan to go wrong. Let's get started. Act 1. Why doing well with money has nothing to do with being smart. Picture a guy who designed a key piece of Wi-Fi technology. Genius-level smart. Multiple successful companies sold, and also a guy who once handed a stranger thousands of dollars in cash just to buy gold coins, then stood on a dock with his friends and threw them into the ocean, laughing just to see whose coin skipped farthest. Here's what almost nobody tells you. Intelligence has almost nothing to do with whether you end up wealthy or broke. That same man shattered a $500 lamp in a hotel restaurant, and when a manager asked him to pay for it, he peeled off $5,000 in cash just to make a point. Years later, he was broke. Morgan Housel calls this the real premise of the book. Doing well with money has a little to do with how smart you are, and a lot to do with how you behave. As he puts it, behavior is hard to teach, even to really smart people. Think of money less like a math problem and more like a personality test with a bank account attached. You don't need a finance degree to win it. You need patience, humility, and the discipline to leave your ego out of your bank statement. It's no longer about being smarter than everyone else. It becomes about being more in control of yourself than everyone else. Act 2. The goalpost that never stops moving. Rajat Gupta ran McKinsey. He sat on Goldman Sachs' board. He was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And in 2008, 16 seconds after a private board call, he tipped off a hedge fund manager about a Warren Buffett deal, just to make a little more. Pause for a second and actually think about that. A man with more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes risked everything to make slightly more. Bernie Madoff wasn't just a fraud either. Before the Ponzi scheme, he ran a legitimate market-making business, pulling in tens of millions a year. He already had everything. He threw it away anyway. Warren Buffett had a blunt line about people like this. As he put it, to make money they didn't have and didn't need. They risked what they did have and did need, and that's foolish. The hardest financial skill isn't earning more, it's getting the goalpost to stop moving. Picture a treadmill that speeds up every time you catch your breath. That's what ambition without a ceiling feels like. It's no longer, how do I get more? It becomes, how do I decide what's enough? Because if you never answer that question, no amount of money will ever feel like a finish line. Here's the trap hiding underneath it. A rookie athlete earning $500,000 a year is rich by any normal definition, until he compares himself to a teammate on a $400 million contract. That teammate can look up the ladder to hedge fund managers earning hundreds of millions a year. And those managers can look up to billionaires whose fortunes grow by more in an hour than most people earn in a year. The ceiling of comparison is so high, nobody ever actually reaches it. The only way to win that particular game is to stop playing it. Act 3. The secret ingredient in every fortune is time, not genius. Warren Buffett's net worth today is $84.5 billion. Here's the part that changes everything. $81.5 billion of that showed up after he qualified for Social Security in his mid-60s. Buffett started investing seriously at age 10. By 30, he had about $1 million. Now, run the math on what happens if he'd invested the exact same way, but retired at 60 to play golf with his grandkids instead of compounding for another 35 years. His fortune wouldn't be $84 billion. It would be under $12 million, 99.9% smaller. His skill was investing. His secret was time. For comparison, a hedge fund manager named Jim Simons has averaged 66% annual return since 1988, roughly 3 times Buffett's rate. And yet Simons is nowhere near as wealthy as Buffett, because he didn't start compounding until later in life and hasn't had nearly as many decades to let it run. A better annual return lost to a longer runway, almost every single time. Picture a snowball rolling down a very, very long hill. The size of the snowball at the bottom has almost nothing to do with how hard you packed it at the top, and everything to do with how long the hill was. If you want compounding to work for you, the formula is simple. Start earlier than feels necessary, and stay in the game longer than feels exciting. A decent return sustained for 50 years will always beat a spectacular return sustained for 5. It's no longer about finding the one genius stock pick. It becomes about refusing to walk away from the table. Act 4. Wealth is what you don't see. Housel spent his 20s as a hotel valet in Los Angeles, parking Ferraris and Lamborghinis for a living. He noticed something strange. When people saw those cars pull up, nobody thought, "That driver is cool." They thought, "If I had that car, people would think I'm cool." Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Buying the car doesn't buy you the admiration you're actually after. As Housel writes, wealth is the nice cars not purchased, the diamonds not bought, the watches not worn. There was a valet, regular Housel, calls Roger, who showed up every week in a brand new Porsche, until one day he pulled up in a beat-up old Honda instead. Turned out the Porsche had been repossessed after he defaulted on the loan. Every assumption people made about Roger from that car was wrong. Think of a fancy car as a receipt, not a trophy. It's proof of what someone spent, not what they kept. It's no longer, "What does this purchase say about me?" It becomes, "What does this purchase cost me and the wealth nobody will ever see?" Act 5. Plan on your plan not going according to plan. Professional blackjack card counters know something most investors never learn. Even with the odds tilted in their favor, they still lose plenty of hands. So they never bet everything on one hand, no matter how confident they feel. This is the moment it actually clicks. The whole strategy runs on humility, not certainty. As card counter Kevin Lewis put it, even with a real edge, the casino will win 49% of the time, so you need enough money to withstand the swings against you. Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing, called this a margin of safety. His favorite way of putting it was that the purpose of the margin of safety is to render the forecast unnecessary. Picture an engineer building a bridge rated for 30,000 pounds, then only ever driving 10,000-pound trucks across it. That gap isn't waste. That gap is what keeps the bridge standing on the one day something goes wrong. If you want room for error, the formula is simple. Save more than the spreadsheet says you need to, and build a plan flexible enough to survive being wrong. It's no longer about predicting exactly what will happen with your money. It becomes about building a life that survives you being wrong. This is what the psychology of money keeps coming back to. Money was never really about the math. It was always about behavior, about enough, about what's actually visible, and about surviving your own bad guesses. The guy throwing gold coins into the ocean had every dollar he needed and none of the behavior to keep it. Ronald Reid, a janitor most people never heard of, had almost nothing extraordinary about him except patience, and he quietly died worth $8 million. Same world, same access to money, completely different results. And this is just one piece of what actually separates the people who build real wealth from the people who just look like they have it. If you want the next breakdown, maybe Rich Dad, Poor Dad, maybe The Millionaire Next Door, tell me which one below and I'll break it down next.